within probably 3 weeks of quitting my job. I made more in that 3-week period than I would have made the entire year had I worked my W-2.
This business doesn't work for people that are like half in. People who are successful are all in. You don't really see people who are successful in this business who like are kind of like tipping around this idea.
By truly sticking with this business for 6 months, you can completely change your life. I was able to go from a very stressed out kind of W-2 position to actually living, like traveling. My life now is so fun.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today we have Landon Bleau. Landon is now a third-time guest, Landon, and this is probably the quickest in between maybe, but it's always something, your episodes always do well. People are always reaching out after, like, they want to be like Landon. Welcome to the show, though.
Yeah, it's awesome to be back. Super excited for today.
Yeah, so I guess it was October you said last time you're in town or in Cincinnati and recording. What's kind of been happening the last 6 months in your land business? What has changed? You're always scaling up, so I'm sure I'll be blown away with what you're doing now. But what has changed in the last 6 months since people last heard you?
Yep. So we've switched around a lot of things. We kind of got rid of some members of our team and added some new members of the team. So we are up to 6 total people now, including myself on the team. Our volume currently is about 30,000 mailers, about 125,000 texts a month. We're doing a lot better in tracking. We have a great sales process. And then the biggest thing of all is, obviously staying consistent is the biggest thing for us. So it's super exciting. Personally, I was able to, obviously with land investing, you're able to kind of run this business anywhere you want in the world. So I'm actually going to Europe for the summer, leaving here in about 4 or 5 days. And we'll be kind of traveling throughout Europe for till August, really. So it's pretty exciting, awesome business to be able to do it with.
For a lot of new listeners that probably like, I'm not going to watch this other episode. Just tell me the information on this one. I'm not going to watch Landon 3 times again. For those people who are listening, who are first-time watchers, first-time listeners, when did you get started in land flipping? Talk about like when you left your job as well, because that was a big thing. I think you left your job right after the first time you got on the podcast, if I remember correctly.
Yep. So I started mailing in, I believe it was November of 2023. So that would be ballpark 18 months ago at this point. First 6 months, as pretty much everybody else, is very, very difficult. I actually got my first deal almost a year ago to the day. So pretty much everything I've done in the last, year really is built up this business. So I was on the podcast, I think it was almost a year ago, or maybe it was the first week of May of 2024. After I had done that podcast, it was basically, I had tons of mentors and other people that I look up to in life reach out, basically say like, dude, if you're, doing this well in land investing, what are you doing, kind of doing that W-2? If you're able to actually take that full 40 hours that you're working at the W-2 and focus on land investing, you could blow this up. So I submitted my letter of resignation. I want to say it was like last week of May, first week of June of 2024. Finished up the W-2 end of June, and then basically started, being a full-time land investor in July of 2024. And it's been, whatever that is, 9 months so far. It's been awesome. We've done, I want to say in the ballpark, I was just looking at numbers, 2.1 million in total revenue, and then gross profit realized is closer to like 8 or 900,000. And then net profit, expenses tend to be about a third of that for total net profit. The business is doing well. We've kind of grown a team since then. Good pipeline kind of building up as well. And just kind of staying consistent is the biggest thing.
I don't know if you asked me, like, guess how long I've been in this, and I don't think I would have said 18 months. And there's some people, I always say it, there's people who have been doing this business for 18 months and it feels like they've been doing it for 2 days based on their knowledge. And then there's people like you who they've been doing it for 18 months and then you have 20 years of knowledge based on how much action you've taken, everything like that. So credit to you for that. What was that like? Because you said your first deal was 12 months ago, give or take. And then you're on the podcast, then you quit your job in June. So like, it's not like you had some crazy, what made you leave your job? Was it just like, okay, there's just a big opportunity here and I'm going to take a leap, even though it's not like I can't fully support myself from this at the moment?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a pipeline to kind of make myself feel comfortable leaving my job. I also had, like I said, my first deal in April of 2024 actually go full cycle, where we actually finally realized the percent of revenue that we made in the business. But from there, it was just like I was very confident in myself, confident in my abilities, confident in the business model. And actually, in July, within probably 3 weeks of quitting my job, I made more in that 3 week period than I would have made the entire year had I worked my W 2. And I had a decent job too. I was in finance at a biotechnology company. So it wasn't like I had a bad salary that I had to replace by any means. But I just saw the opportunity in talking with a lot of other people is basically like, hey, if you were able to just fully focus on land, and really build that up, think of how much more money you can make, how much more freedom you would have. And I was able to really use a lot of that freedom as well. Me and my wife kind of travel around a lot. She was doing some traveling healthcare contracts. We spent almost the entire month of October in Hawaii. We're going to be able to spend this summer in Europe. And it was just kind of the freedom that land investing provides you. We were able to really take advantage of that after I quit my W 2, as well as make a ton more money than I would have had I stayed in that W 2. So that was really the thing, was the W 2 at a certain point was holding me back. It was limiting, it was kind of putting a ceiling on what I could do with land. And it just made so much more sense to kind of quit that job and fully focus my time here.
Did anyone doubt you when you made that leap?
So honestly, I had, I was talking to, my parents, some family members and everything like that. Nobody really said anything or anything like that. It was really just me and my wife were like very confident. She had a job that would kind of, provide if we needed it. We kept our fixed expenses very low. We do kind of travel and spend a decent bit of money now, but that's kind of the variable expenses that we could always cut back if we ran into some hard times. We stay very liquid. So instead of kind of funding all of our own deals and everything like that, we keep a good cash cushion kind of in the bank, just in case we do run into those troubles and stuff like that. So in terms of doubt, no, I would say, I was extremely confident myself. And then, my wife was like, let's do it. Let's give it a try. And, worst case scenario, I have a degree in finance. I could go get another finance job. So it was a pretty easy bet to make.
So now 18 months ahead or a year ahead from when you kind of quit your job, a little less than a year ahead from when you quit your job, you've had kind of you're running a real business, like you're firing people, you're hiring people. Talk about that a little bit. Like, when did you make your first hire? When did you realize, like, I need to make some adjustments with my team? Because you said you just had some transitions. I don't know what that exactly looked like, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so for the first hire, I want to say I made the first hire. It would have been March or April of, I want to say it was March of 2024. And that was honestly what helped me a ton. Is the biggest problem that I had initially was I couldn't stay consistent with texting while I was still at my W 2. I could stay consistent with mail, but the follow up texting, which is, kind of a bigger or a better opportunity is what I see it as currently. And at the time was I wasn't able to stay consistent with texting. So, I would send maybe some texts on Monday and Wednesday, but then I would be slow to reply. So hiring that texter actually kind of really helped build up the pipeline because we were able to capitalize on a lot of deals from that. And I would recommend pretty much anybody else too, if you are looking for that first hire. I think the lead generation, whether it be a cold caller or a texter, is probably the best bang for your buck there, because you want to be focusing your time and your money on kind of generating more leads so that you can actually bring those into your business and have the opportunity to negotiate those deals. So then we hired, I want to say it was a pricing analyst after that to kind of help a lot with staying consistent on the mailing side. After that, I want to say it was like a lead manager that we had hired, which is basically, kind of just a standard line of questioning that they ask all leads, so that we're able to kind of win the speed to lead game there. So anybody texting us, a lot of people are going to say like, hey, let's jump on a call now. Well, I wasn't always able to do that because of other meetings or stuff like that. So hiring that lead manager, it allowed us to kind of capitalize on the speed to lead, where we were able to get back to people typically within about 10 minutes. So whether that be a call in or a text that says, hey, let's jump on the call now, or just scheduling. So that was kind of the next hire. Then after that, it was is an executive assistant. And then, we kind of reset the business. I realized it wasn't a lot of the right people in the right seats towards the end of the year last year. So we actually took the team from 5 down to 2 people. and then kind of rehired slowly at the beginning of this year, primarily in Q1. Being very slow to hire and hiring the right people and doing extensive training to kind of make them the best that they could be at that position. So we have a really good team right now. It's 5 total people, 2 full-time texters, 1 pricing data analyst, an executive assistant, and then a lead manager.
That's interesting because it's very common for especially people as hungry as you to grow to not even grow too fast. Just think, and it's probably your mindset. Like, I add more people, I'm going to make more money. I add more people, I'm going to make more money. When reality, like, okay, if you're adding a bunch of C players, or sometimes it's just like it's not the right roles, but if you're adding C players, 5 of them opposed to 2, 3 really good A players, was that kind of, and we restructured part of our business. And it was very similar. Like, it's like, all right, we're adding people is not adding revenue. It's adding more stress. It's adding overhead, everything like this. So sometimes it's just a big wholesale change you got to make. Was that kind of what you kind of realized?
That's exactly what it was. Where it was like I was talking to other people. They're like, so how kind of are the members on your team? I was like, they're okay, you know. They're like, that's just not a good answer, right? You don't build a $1 million business with kind of okay people on the team. So you really want them to be the best they could be. The people that we did, let go of, we gave a very generous kind of severance package where we paid them weeks and weeks that we didn't necessarily have to, but I just felt it was the right thing to do. And then rehiring, we were very good at rehiring where we were slow to hire. We checked we checked references and we, kind of did a couple of like trial days with them as well to make sure that they were really the right people for the position.
That makes sense. So you have 2 texters, 125,000 texts per month. You have 30,000 mailers, and your data analyst is responsible for those mailers as well. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Talk about what is that data analyst? That's what you said. Data analysts reviewing. Are they reviewing deals? What does their role look like? I think a lot of people will be very interested in this.
Yeah, so they basically go into, so I guess starting with the state selection, they're actually making sure that we're pulling data from the correct counties. We want to make sure that people want to buy land in the areas that we're buying so that we can resell to them. So they're kind of starting on that front end, making sure they're pulling the right counties, everything like that. They're the ones actually going into the land portal and kind of downloading the data. Then they're scrubbing it from there, pricing the mail. Obviously, it's going to get a little bit easier here with some new features in the future to kind of price that mail. Then they're working with Rocket Print to get it shipped off to actually send. Then they're working with our texters to kind of move the data along and basically say, the data analyst is saying, okay, texters, this week you're going to text these people. And then they're kind of helping with that process in terms of like the data management side of things. And then as, kind of they have different time, they're also looking at for sale properties and looking at primarily subdivision opportunities. So it would be, using the land portal, land frontage or road frontage filter. They are basically, after they pull a county, they want to check to see anything on market. If there's any, opportunity that we see where we could flip a property, typically there's not, right? Because we have done it before where we bought a property on market and then just relisted it on market and paid $10,000 on it. But they're really looking at project-based things there. And kind of seeing what opportunities there might be for properties that are already listed, and then they're passing that information along to me. I'm kind of calling the agent and seeing if we might be able to put some deal together on market.
That's interesting, and that's a big role. Some people, I think, just kind of put a data analyst like, I just have a pricer, and they're just pricing blind offers. Or this person has responsibility kind of for finding you deals as well. Like, they're definitely that can help with acquisition for sure. So you said executive assistant, data, 2 texters. What's the other person you said is an acquisition person?
That would be the lead manager. So I still sit within the acquisition manager role where I'm actually I'm kind of the one finalizing the offers and everything like that in terms of like what our kind of max allowable offer is. But they're kind of the information gatherer on the first call. So that helps us win kind of the speed to lead. Then the lead manager, what they essentially do is try to pull out the price that the seller wants for the property. Then based on that price, they're scheduling it on my calendar. If it's somebody that we would call, very motivated, kind of a hot lead, they're typically scheduling it on my calendar for the same day or the next day, depending on, what time it is in the day. And then, colder lead, he's basically responding like, hey, we'll get back to you, if we're able to kind of get to that price. So he kind of has a basic knowledge of comping then as well.
Are they overseas or are they here?
They're everybody on teams overseas.
Got it. That's cool being able to build a team like that. And you can get A players overseas and like your overhead will be less. And that's why you've been able to build such a big team for sure. Talk about the mindset behind keeping yourself in that acquisition spot. Was that something, did you try to outsource that and struggled? Acquisitions is where you make money. Talk about that and that decision. Like, I still need to be talking to these sellers.
Yep, exactly. That was the thing is we tried to outsource it to somebody with kind of a part-time W-2 job. It was a US based person. That was kind of the first US based part-time hire that we had made. But it just turned out to be, it didn't work. I think you really need somebody like a killer salesperson in that position, super hungry. They need to be motivated. So you need to incentivize them in a way that they're going to be receiving some equity in the deals, a certain percentage of gross profit. Ballpark from what I've seen is like 5 to 10%, depending on how many deals they're closing per month of the total kind of wire to wire gross profit. And then, we tried to outsource it. We actually had a significant reduction in the amount of contracts that we were getting signed. And then as soon as I kind of stepped back into that position, we essentially got back to our normal run rate and have increased since. So I want to say, Q2, Q3, we were around like a contract to a contract and a half a week. Q4 is kind of when we outsource to that person. We dropped down to like a contract every other week to a contract a month. And then I took it back over in Q1 and we're back up to a contract to about a contract and a half a week. And then going forward for Q2 and forward, we're ballparking to hit kind of the two signed contracts a week going forward.
That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that's good. It's a hard position to hire, is hiring someone. Like, it is hard to incentivize them properly. It's hard to get them motivated. It is a very difficult thing. And you're not a sales, like, your background isn't in sales, your background's in finance. So it's not like you're a salesperson through and through, but you understand the business, you know how to talk to the sellers, and like, you doing it is creating the most money for your company. What are your kind of, as you're looking forward in 2025, what are kind of your goals going forward? Is it bigger deals? Is it volume of deals? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I want to be doing, typically we want to be ballparking 8 contracts a month. Let's call it like a 25% fallout rate. So that would be closing 6 deals, 100 or about $25,000 per contract. So that'd be about $150,000 gross profit per month, 1.8 million per year, with about 600,000 plus or minus in expenses, which would net about 1.2 million, which would be kind of the goal would be to net around $100,000 a month is the overall goal. We're still kind of building up to the 2 contracts a month, but we're trying to compensate in terms of like me spending a lot of my time working on subdivision projects, which is also something that I'm focusing on more in the future is focusing more on those kind of survey hacking and subdivision projects to kind of increase the average deal size from 25,000 to closer to 35 to 40,000 is the overall goal. So that's kind of the goal this year: 1.8 million gross profit, 1.2 million net profit.
How's that looking as far as you said you're building up to that? Is it kind of like you're on the right track for that, or is it something like second half of the year is going to have to be really big? Where do you stand right now?
Yep. So Q1 we locked up 400, I think it was 420,000 in gross profit. Now again, these numbers are not necessarily like closed on. This would be under contract. Some of them are closed. Some of them have been seen so full cycle. Some of them we're still in the process of closing on. So different stages there. But it was about 420,000 in gross profit potential, at least, that we locked up within Q1. And then right in Q2, it's only been whatever 3.5 weeks so far. We're just shy of 200,000 in April so far. So we're still tracking towards that number. We need to be at about $500,000 a quarter, or breaks down to whatever that is, $175,000 a month, which totally makes sense for kind of the volume that we're doing. We're increasing or we're adding on another marketing channel. We're adding on kind of cold calling. We're doing it internal here. So we're adding on a cold calling team in probably the next 3 to 4 weeks. So that will kind of give us an additional touch point. We added it last year and it actually kind of hurt us a lot. So we took it away immediately, and then we're adding it back in this year now that we have a much more, I guess, a much better sales process at this point.
So where are you hiring those people? Not where, how many are you hiring? What is that going to look like in terms of volume of that team?
Yep. So I'm kind of doing the who not how. So I'm actually hiring a cold calling manager that's going to help me build out the
Mm,
team rather than hiring individual cold callers myself. So I'm hiring somebody that's kind of very experienced in it. That'll be an international hire. We're kind of in the process of interviewing for that position right now. And then I have always heard you want to hire cold callers in pairs of two. What mainly so that you can compare and contrast, as well as you need them to not think that they're the only person on the team. So you need to keep them motivated in a way. So probably building out a team of 4 to 6 cold callers, which will take us up to whatever that would be, probably 10 people total on the team, 10 to 12 people total on the team. And then, the goal from that with the kind of 6 cold callers would be in the ballpark of an additional two-ish contracts a month based on industry standard numbers that I'm seeing.
that's awesome. And I love that you're building that team in house. You can obviously outsource that stuff, but talk about the reason behind that. Is it scalability? Is it control? Not in control in like a asshole way, just like control, like you have control of quality, everything like that, quicker changes. Talk about the reason. Why are you building that in house instead of outsourcing?
Yeah, and that was the exact rate. One, it's going to be price, right? You can, if you outsource it from what I've seen, it's around 3,000 ish a month. If for per cold caller, in house, you can get it at probably about a third that price, maybe even a little bit less than that. So one, it's price. We can build a much larger cold calling team for a significantly cheaper dollar rather than outsourcing it. Two, we can also control the whole process. So we control the questions that we're asking. We can make changes. We can quickly adjust different things based on what we're seeing that's working well, trying out different softwares through that process. But we're able to control the whole thing from the start to the finish. We're not reliant on other people kind of sending us leads. I don't really like being, reliant on different agencies and stuff like that. I'd rather kind of control the whole process. Again, not in a controlling way, just for it's fully on me then if I'm doing something wrong. I know I'm the problem with it, so I need to get behind it and kind of fix it there. So we're able to, kind of provide the own data. We're able to use our own data and numbers and everything like that and control the whole process from the start to the finish.
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke. Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
You also have the ability to make changes really, really fast, which I love. When you have people in house that are making calls, that you can make changes the same day. Like, I don't like how we're doing this. We need to change this. Or maybe you want to start having like when you have that tool, when the land portal comp tool comes out and the comp tool is out where every property has its own price on the list, like you can kind of give a ballpark number where you only have, I don't know what that process is going to look like for you. Is that in your mind though? Like, these cold callers can start giving not necessarily a solid price, but if you have the land portal estimate at 40,000, like we pay between $35,000 to $43,000 for properties like this.
Yep, exactly. It'll give the cold callers the opportunity. We always like to try to pull out a price before we actually offer up a price, just to make sure that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot or anything like
Yeah.
that. Trying to do that, but yes, it'll give us that opportunity, and it'll also be very easy to do where they're kind of just going through the list. They're able to see the phone number, see the person's name, and then see the price that we would need to be in the ballpark of to actually make the deal come to fruition. So yeah, it's going to be a huge opportunity there with kind of that number there, and then being able to throw that out, because some people are just like stubborn. They just won't give you a price. Totally understand it. We would probably be the exact same way if I was in their shoes, and somebody was asking me to sell my land. But having that number out there, we're able to kind of throw that out there and kind of see how motivated they are based on that number.
So are you, what is your, if you have a lot of reliability or trust in the comping and the land portal estimate, like what is that data analyst job? Does it transition a little bit? What does that look like? More on the subdivide analyzation? What are their job, or have you thought about that? Because the tool just came out this morning.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that, if any?
Yeah, so I actually scheduled a meeting with him right after this to kind of workshop that a little bit, because I was like, dude, this is incredible. Like, it is very, very accurate. I tried, like I said, 10 properties that I had either purchased and we were in the process of selling, and then, kind of judging based on how interested people, how many calls we're getting, we can kind of see in the ballpark of what it will sell at, as well as some of the properties that I have under contract to purchase. Based on my estimates, I have that kind of all those written down. I'm pulling the report, and it's like plus or minus 5%. So sometimes it was based on some wetlands and some different things like that, maybe 10%, but it was still very, very accurate. So yeah, meeting with them after this, it'll probably be more project-based stuff then, where it would be the opportunities of like subdivision, because what we want to do is we want to get a whole list of data points in a few different states that we work in, of particular properties that I can then kind of call, or we have like our top cold caller is going to call, that would all be project-based deals. So these would be minimum six-figure deals, 100,000 up to probably $500,000 based on the subdivision potential. So I'll probably have him work specifically in kind of picking those specific data pieces, be an aggregation of probably 20,000 pieces of data per state. And then we'll have that, kind of our top cold caller, after we kind of trial and test the waters a little bit with a few different cold callers. Our top cold caller actually called those particular deals, and then we'll know every single kind of opportunity that they present to us is a six-figure deal. So that's kind of what it will transition into, which is awesome, because right now, again, like a lot of his time is spent comping the parcels or not comping the parcels, but trying to figure out zip code pricing, county pricing, everything like that. And to have that, almost automated in a way, it'll open up his opportunity, or his time to actually pursue those larger opportunities.
And some people, I'm sure you believe in him. It sounds like some people, when they could potentially cut a role, like honestly, like it could cut a role, but you believe in the person. So let's just restructure this a little bit to make your role, like let's use the tool, restructure your role a little bit to make your role more valuable, where you can get more out of it, opposed to like, yeah, I'm going to cut this X dollar per month expense. Very interesting there. I had you talked about coaching before we started. You say, yeah, I want to touch base on coaching. You're investing a lot into coaching, whether it's, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but in terms of, and you talked about a lot of people are fearful of investing in coaching, or like hesitant, but then they go pay $150,000 for college or stuff like that. Talk about coaching, how that has helped you grow to get where you are. Because what you've done in 18 months, like it's a credit to what you've invested in yourself, your business, other people, everything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the exact thing. Is like people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, kind of getting these different degrees and everything, and then they hear coaching's a few $1,000 or something like that. People, from what I've seen, have not looked at the opportunity cost. So sure, maybe you can get into land investing and do a simple course or something like that. Maybe you make $50,000 or $100,000 this year. But they're like, I don't want to spend that extra few $1,000s on a coach or something like that. I will probably spend in the ballpark of $50,000 to $60,000 this year personally, on coaching, whether it be land coaching, some EOS coaching, different things like that. So people just need to understand the opportunity cost, where sure, maybe you can make $100,000 this year if you do this business yourself and just kind of working through the course. But what if you're able to hire a coach for a few $1,000 more and make $500,000 this year? That's kind of how I started. As well, was like being cheap at the beginning. Don't look at it like that. Look at it as kind of the investment that you're making in yourself. Don't look at it as a cost. Look at it as kind of you're condensing the timeline, right? What if you're able to make $500,000 this year working with a really good coach or something like that, and then in the future you're able to kind of quickly build this up to $1 million business rather than trying to figure it out on your own. So that's the biggest thing I would say is hire good people that are experienced in obviously everything like that, to kind of coach you through this process. Lean on others, get in the right communities and stuff like that. Because the opportunity cost of trying to figure it on your own versus just like asking somebody else the question, they give you the answer, versus something that you'd have to take 2 months to figure out on your own. Just spend the money and kind of get a coach. It's not that it's very, very minimal cost, and the return on investment that you're going to get is tenfold, probably more.
Once you hire, and I noticed this because like I was probably years ago like that, but once you hire your first coach and it works, you're going to have coaches for every aspect of your life. Like it just like, okay, this works. And if you're getting a return on your spend, like if you really think about it like that, and they're experts in their field so well. And like with our marketing, we have social media coach, we have a marketing coach. I just hired a coach for doing podcasts a little better. He's like, Ron, you got to slow the hell down. You talk too fast. Take breaths. You can pause a little bit. It's okay. So yeah, every part, and it 10x's. If I get another 1,000 people to watch an episode or something like that, it's helpful. But that's really what is there a mindset behind hiring that first coach? You hired a land coach. I think you worked with Anthony a little bit here. But was there a mindset? Was it a hurdle, or like I don't think you're one to like overthink that stuff.
Yeah, when I had initially signed up for the course, I don't believe coaching was available at the time. I wish it had been, or maybe it was, and I just didn't even look at it just because I didn't
Probably
have
not.
the money for it. But at the time, yeah, it's a mindset thing where it's like you only see this as whatever a couple $1,000 or a few $1,000 expense, and you don't actually see what that's going to provide to you in the back end. So I would say the biggest thing is like if you're going to commit to kind of land investing this business model, there is absolutely no reason not to kind of spend that additional money and hire a coach. They're going to condense the timeline, which is going to skyrocket your profits versus what you would make on your own. So yeah, it's definitely a mindset thing. But I would say, kind of decide at the beginning, is land investing the thing that you want to go into? If it is, then 100% spend the money on a coach.
It's the biggest thing is, and when I talk to people, I'm not overly salesy when I have people that are interested in hiring someone on my team as a coach or something like that. I'm not overly salesy, but once you do find like this is the right route for you, like you've seen enough success stories, you've compared it to other business models, that's when like you got to put your head down and work. This business, and I'm sure you've seen it, because this business doesn't work for people that are like half in. You were all in when you get started. The people who are successful are all in. Is that you don't really see people who are successful in this business who like are kind of like tipping around this idea and like testing the waters, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's basically the people that come in and they, figure out a marketing schedule. The people that are kind of not successful are the ones that like, let me send this first round of 1,500 mailers. Let me wait 2 weeks till it actually hits their mailbox and answer these calls. Oh, we didn't get any calls. Land investing sucks. Let's quit and, try a wholesaling course or something after that. The people that are successful are basically like, okay, I've done a little bit of research on this. I know this is what I want to do. I know the business model works. I understand I might not get a deal in this first set of 1,500 mailers, but I know if I'm consistent and I send maybe 1,500 mailers a week or 1,500 mailers every other week, I get around kind of the right community that actually supports me, which is super, super important, right? Because it's important to see other successes. It's important to understand what they're doing different than you. Some different things. Maybe you change around your mailer a little bit. Maybe you change around your wording. Maybe you change around the envelope. Different things like that. So kind of getting around the community is super important too. But yeah, overall, I would say, kind of decide that land investing is right for you and then actually commit to this. Don't just say, I'm going to try this once or I'm going to try one set of mailers. I would say give it 6 months because honestly, that's what it takes. You can listen to, kind of all the people that Ron and Dan that have interviewed. It takes 6 months. Maybe you can get lucky and get, a deal in your first mailer. It's totally possible. But if you stick to this and you commit to this business, this is something that can absolutely kind of drive you to the goals that you want to achieve in your business as well as your life, right? Like this opened up so many opportunities. We're able to do this business from literally anywhere in the world. And it'll give you truly the life that you actually want to live.
And you're going to Europe for for multiple 3-4 months in a few days, which is incredible. And I'm sure that would be more difficult is your wife still doing so she was doing some travel was a physical therapy, right? Is she still doing that, or is she transitioned out of that? Or did she just kind of do it as she wants with a job like that?
Yeah, yep. So you can basically take gaps kind of between the contracts and everything like that. So that's what she'll be doing here, and then we'll probably come back to Ohio where she could get another job in the future. But that's one of the benefits that land investing has provided us, where we have enough capital where she doesn't need to kind of have this job, and it allows us that freedom and flexibility where we can go to Europe. I just basically restructure my day. So I no longer work kind of, in the morning to the, mid-afternoon or evening. I basically have the mornings off. I start working around noonish and then, kind of work into the evening, maybe a little bit later. So Europe's kind of a great area to actually go to where you're still able to kind of work the, normal business hours. You just kind of restructure your day a little bit to have the work on the back half of the day and then kind of have more freedom and opportunities in the morning to be able to travel or just relax.
That makes sense. how has this business model changed since you got into it? You're 18 months. I feel like it's kind of whirlwind of an 18 months, not just for you, for the business model as a whole. There's been a lot of changes. How has it changed in your mind since you started 18 months ago?
Yeah, so I would say there's more mail going out, probably more texting and stuff like that, and overall marketing that's getting generated. I would say it's probably a little bit harder to acquire a deal today, but I was just pulling some numbers that we had. So currently we're getting about 3.5x ROAS, which return on ad spend on our mail. This is without follow-up text. So just basically every dollar we put into mail, we get about $3.50 back in gross profit. For texting, it's about 9x. So for every dollar we put into texting, we're getting about $9 out in gross profit. And then if you combine the two, it ends up being like 5.25. So, I would say when we were probably first starting, we probably got a slightly higher ROAS, but all you really need to do is, focus on consistency. This is still an extremely, extremely profitable business model. If anything, with all the new tools and kind of features, all the AI and everything like that that's coming into it, it's just opening up more opportunities for you to kind of niche down, I would say. Is a big benefit. We've started building on some of our parcels, just some basic stuff, right? Hiring, Pennsylvania, Ohio, some of the kind of Midwestern states. They have a very high kind of Amish population. The Amish, we've hired them to do a lot of our builds and stuff like that. But just putting some basic stuff on there, you can kind of niche down and specialize in some different things. And there's huge, huge profit potential, right? You could do entitlements, major subdivisions, minor subdivisions. You can focus on landlocked properties. You could do, tax deed things. You could do, buying a share of sale, different things like that. So I would say, kind of focusing on a niche and kind of getting good at maybe one or two niches is probably more popular now than it was before, because it's hard to, just blast mailers at 35 cents on the dollar and, get a ton of callbacks now. So you kind of have to be a little bit better at sales, and then, probably a little bit more niche down in terms of what you're looking for. But there's still that opportunity where you could still send mail at 40 cents on the dollar and get deals, and it's still very profitable. It's just going to take more mail now in outbound marketing overall.
I think you need more of like, tell me if I'm wrong. I think you need more of like a business plan now, like an actual like strategy, opposed to like it's just not brute force that it might have been 2 years ago. Maybe not when you first started. Maybe it was a little before that, honestly, when like you need a strategy coming in, you need to be able to execute. It's more of a business now than just like, okay, just throw these mailers out, like follow up text, having multiple strategies of marketing. I think that, do you agree in terms of that? Like you have a team, obviously it's different. I'm not even saying you need a team, but I'm just like having a plan. How are you going to get deals opposed to like just throwing things out there and seeing what happens?
Yep, I 100% agree. Where it's like you basically pull the data, then have a process for that data. So what do we do first? Maybe you text first, then you mail, then you text again. Maybe you mail first, then you text. But we have basically a process. We mail first as soon as we pull the data. We're consistent in that. We send about 7,500 mailers a week. We have the expiration date at 8 weeks. So basically 8 weeks on a Friday, we have it expire the Monday before that expiration date, 2 weeks before, so 10 days before, we're texting it. So we have a process for this. We've kind of always had that process I would say we kind of developed that in early 2024. But we have a process for our data. We have a process for our marketing. We don't miss our marketing. We don't miss numbers. And by staying consistent like that, that's kind of the business strategy that we have is we don't miss on our kind of KPIs and our overall outbound marketing. We're very consistent in getting all of our follow-up texts and everything like that out. So yeah, you definitely need a business strategy. You can't just shotgun 2 or 3 states, just randomly pull a couple of counties, just blast out some things. You need to be kind of focused on the business model and make this an actual business instead of kind of that side hobby to actually grow it. Sure, you could blast a few mailers out, maybe get a deal or two, little extra side income, but to actually have something formalized and some sort of business strategy, that's definitely the best way to run this business.
And guys, you don't need to go on that. Like you don't need a team to have systems and processes. You can build systems and processes and do this business all by yourself. And the processes and systems can kind of hold you accountable. And then plugging in players, plugging in team members when you are ready for that point is definitely feasible. And it's very common. That's going to make the easiest transition when you hire people. But as we wrap this up, Landon, Any advice for someone, and we kind of talked about it there, any advice for someone looking to get into this business where you're like, you got to do this, or if you don't do this, like there's no chance? What advice do you have someone? You have a ton of experience. What advice do you have for someone looking to get into this?
Yeah, the biggest thing I see is people not committed to they like test the waters or dip a toe in or something like that. Yeah, I'll try 1,000 mailers, or I'll try 500 mailers and just kind of see. That's just not enough mail. That's just not enough volume. If you're limited in capital, do cold calling. You could find, you just skip trace a few numbers, be a few $100 into this. You don't need a cold caller. Just use your cell phone, or maybe get a $15 open phone number and call through there. But I would say the biggest thing is give this 6 months, stick with it, have kind of the budget or the cash flow. Maybe you cut down on something else in your life. But, by truly sticking with this business for 6 months, you can completely change your life. I was able to go from a very stressed out kind of W-2 position to actually living, like traveling, being able to hire a team. Like my life now is so fun. This is exactly what I had dreamed of. In this business model totally came to life because I believed in it and I committed to it. So commit to this for 6 months, kind of have the budget to work with in terms of outbound marketing. And you don't really need that big of a budget. You could even, kind of offer on market properties. It's obviously going to be very difficult to lock one of those up unless it's kind of a project-based deal. But there's cheap ways to get into this. And then as quickly as you can, kind of invest in yourself, invest in coaching, invest in better softwares and data and stuff like that. As you go throughout the process, but get started too. Don't wait on this. I see some people. It's like, yeah, maybe I'll get started later this year or something like that. Decide, kind of commit, and then stick to it for a minimum 6 months.
A lot of people are waiting for situations to come out. Like, I need to do this before I start this. Like, if you're ready to go, if you believe in it, there aren't budgets that you can't make this business work. Like Landon said, picking up the phone, everyone can save another $100 a month. Like, I just don't believe if you're working a full-time job. There's obviously situations, but if you're working a full-time job, you believe in this business, you can go work a second part-time job and save $100 for cold calling yourself. Like, if you truly believe in it, I don't think there's really a budget where you can't get started in this business. But Landon, it was an absolute pleasure. You're pretty active in our Discord. Is that the best place where people can kind of find you? Instagram
yep,
as well.
Yep. Hey, I kind of post all of our deals there, so feel free to reach out on either of those.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you hopping on here again today. Enjoy Europe. That's amazing, and that's only 18 months into land investing. I'm excited to see what the next 18 months show. But I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, guys. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. Listen on Spotify or Apple. Share this with a friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.